Today, I'm going to be coding a lightning strike animation in 2 minutes, then 20 minutes, and finally, 2 hours. This was originally going to be 1 minute, 10 minutes, and 1 hour. However, I realized that it wasn't really possible to code anything that looks remotely close to lightning in a single minute. Anyways, hope you guys enjoy. Two minutes isn't much time, so my idea for this one is to just create a vertical, zigzagging line that changes positions randomly and very quickly. My hope is that this will somewhat resemble lightning, especially if I put it up against a dark background for contrast against the bright bolt color. This B function is essentially my bolt function, but I'm just abbreviating the name to save time. The cleanliness of the code doesn't really matter since I only have 2 minutes. The bolt will just be a simple white line. I'll spawn it in the middle of the canvas and have it run vertically across the middle of the screen. I'll draw the bolt randomly by having it move 20 pixels down the screen each step, and have it fluctuate horizontally somewhere between 20 pixels to the left and 20 pixels to the right. Lastly, I'll randomize the times at which the bolt is regenerated. I want it to be frequent, but not too frequent. Every 50 milliseconds, I'll trigger the bolt function 10% of the time. This is probably a weird way to randomize timing, but it's what came to mind first. With the last 5 seconds, I'll just update the page title to Lightning. And that's 2 minutes up. Honestly, not bad for only 2 minutes. It's actually a decent amount of code, considering that I'm not the fastest typer in the world. But now, for the moment of truth. It's time to see if it actually works. Okay, I think it looks decent for 2 minutes. It's a bit glitchy, and I think I could have let the bolt fluctuate horizontally a little more. But overall, I think I'm happy with that. Let's move on to the 20-minute lightning animation. The first thing I'm doing is just setting up the basic styles for the canvas, and also ensuring that it's resized correctly so that the animation fully fits the browser window. 20 minutes is still not super long, but I think I can definitely create something more interesting than the 2-minute lightning animation. For the lightning bolt this time, I'll generate it in a similar way to the 2-minute version, by randomly varying the X and Y directions at each step. This time, rather than just having a solid white line as the bolt, I want to make it glow a little. So I'm going to render a solid line and then overlap that with a thicker, slightly transparent line to give the effect that the bolt is glowing. Also, I don't want the bolts to just disappear instantly. I want to add a fading effect so that it more naturally mimics real lightning in nature. Okay, it's been about 8 minutes. Let's see how it looks. It's already looking much better than the 2-minute one, in my opinion. I've also varied the position of where the bolt can appear, so it's not always in the center of the screen. I think it looks a bit empty with just a single bolt at the moment. I'll make it so that it's possible for 2 bolts to spawn at the same time. This will be random, of course. And there we go. I think it looks much better with multiple bolts. The next thing I want to add is some more complexity to the bolts and maybe some potential branching. I don't think the branching is working as expected, but I'll get back to that later since I only have like 8 minutes left. The next effect I want to add is the flash effect. When lightning strikes in real life, there's usually a flash across the sky. I want to add this effect to our lightning animation because right now, it looks a little lackluster. Okay, it's starting to come together with the flash effect. I literally just added a white gradient that fades over time, then timed it with the lightning flash. Finally, I'm going to revisit the branching idea and see if I can get it to have some smaller branches of lightning form from the main branches. I'm rewriting some of the logic I had earlier that wasn't working properly. Hopefully, I'll be able to wrap it up by the 20-minute mark. It's going to be close. I don't know about you guys, but for 20 minutes, I think that looks quite good. I'm quite happy with how this one turned out. I definitely could have created a bit more branching and done some things with the background, but I'll save that for the 2-hour version. Now, it's finally time to do what you've all been waiting for, the 2-hour lightning animation. I'm first starting off with the actual lightning. This time, instead of just having a single bolt with many branches, I'm going to render groups of bolts that more closely resemble how lightning looks in real life. I think it'll look much cooler with clusters of lightning bolts, and also, this time, I have more time I can spend on figuring out how to actually implement this, unlike before, where I was really limited by the time constraints. Okay, this turned out to be a bit trickier than I thought, and as you guys can see, it's taking a long time. That's not supposed to be happening. They should be disappearing immediately after. After a little more debugging, I was able to fix it and finally got something that looked pretty decent. Okay, these are definitely the best looking lightning bolts we've had so far. The next thing I want to add is a bit of color to the background. I think it would look cooler if the background wasn't just completely black, and it actually looked like the night sky. Since we have more time this round, we can actually spend some time on the background. To achieve this effect, I'll add some shades of blue and gray to the gradient. It's starting to come together. Let me add the flash effect again, similar to what we had in the 20-minute version. This time, rather than just having the top of the screen flash, I'll make the flash effect more dramatic and ensure that it covers the entire screen. That's looking great. I still have an hour, so I think I'm going to add more details to the environment, starting with some clouds. To create the clouds, I'm going to try to draw some elliptical, dark gray shapes by connecting two arcs. The bottom arc will be flatter, which will hopefully at least sort of resemble the shape of a cloud, even if they're a bit geometric. I also want them to move slightly horizontally across the canvas, as real clouds would. There will be multiple layers of clouds, with more near the top and fewer as we move down. I'll have the clouds overlay the lightning bolts, so it hopefully creates a cool visual effect, as if the lightning is behind the clouds. Okay, I think it's really starting to come together. Lightning usually happens during a storm, so the next step is to add some rain. For the rain, I'm going to render very thin horizontal lines that move extremely fast. They will fall very quickly and at a slight diagonal angle, so it gives the effect of there being a bit of wind. Some of the droplets are moving completely horizontally. Let me try to debug this. This bug is taking longer than expected. I'm certainly cutting it close. Finally found it. I had a plus sign instead of a multiplication sign on the droplet's horizontal velocity. At least the rain is working now. The last thing I'm going to add is some stars to the background. Hopefully this won't take too long. The stars should be relatively simple. I can just sporadically render dots randomly across the canvas in the upper half of the page. The stars aren't appearing, so I'm doing a bit of debugging again. This is going to be extremely close. I think this turned out quite good and is probably the best lightning animation I could have created in just 2 hours. Obviously, there are some improvements I could have made, like the shape of the clouds, or perhaps even rendering some mountains in the background as well. But overall, I'm happy with this result. In fact, I'm quite satisfied with all 3 results, given the time constraints. But let me know how you guys think I did down in the comments below. Also, make sure you're subscribed. I have a lot of cool stuff planned for the future that you won't want to miss. See you in the next one.